times NXT was better than legit anything. Let's get into this.
2010's could be pretty rough watching. Raw and SmackDown booking the Authority's Big Show and Kane against two equally bland baby faces this week was actually WWE's mental. The black and gold brand was the punk rock to the main roster's family-friendly radio. It was cooler, it was edgier, and it had something to prove. I'm Sai from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 times NXT Black and Gold was better than literally everything. Number 10, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. SummerSlam 2015 was actually...
This is so true. Without a doubt, yes.
Less great, with The Undertaker needlessly getting his win back a year and a half after Lesnar broke the streak, and talk show host John Cena was specifically involved in Cena versus Rollins. Even as a show that most agreed was decent enough, though, NXT had made numerous huge statements at TakeOver Brooklyn the night before that would put it above SummerSlam.
This paper is absolutely fire on top of fire, yes.
Because the boss had already moved up to the big time, Bayley's championship victory was inevitable, but no less impactful. In some ways, it was a true end of an era moment and the beginning of something new, as very soon WWE would have to start doing more than the bare minimum with their women's division. After all, SummerSlam didn't even booked a women's title match and instead had three ROH teams duking it out for an underwhelming 15 minutes. Brooklyn also saw an incredibly match main event between Owens and Balor.
Isn't this the match where, Finn did the double snap up popular?
There's a reason that Brooklyn needed to be mentioned right out of the gate because it was such a statement of intent for how WWE could do so much more with its women's division. But NXT didn't stop there in doing what the main roster wouldn't. Vince McMahon's inconsistent interest in tag team wrestling had long been an issue in WWE, and so NXT felt like it was a breath of fresh air. It presented something to WWE that they hadn't felt for a very long time by making its tag division as valuable as its main event scene.
That's where, like, FTR blew up, if you know what I mean. That match right there, DIY versus Tudor, it was fire. So for every tag team that comes out of NXT, absolutely decreases. I'm just putting it out there.
In the 200 days that they held them, the Usos defended the belts a paltry 6 times.
They have super popularity in NXT. They're super good at wrestling. Their characters super. Ever since they hit the main roster, they're true and stable, and they're still like straight down. I never understand why, in my opinion. Just like look at Enzo and Cass, look at etc. etc. All these wrestlers that have absolutely 10 out of 10 popularity in NXT. As soon as they hit the main roster, it's just dead. It's like all of a sudden they're nowhere near that. Like nowhere near that quality looking. DIY is another good example, to be honest.
NXT TakeOver London. WWE's Clash at the Castle was a big deal for international fans. It was the first major premium live event the company had run in Europe for 19 years. But sometime during that dark period, NXT was doing what WWE wouldn't, and the crowd was red hot for it. This, as it often does, fueled the in-ring work of the hungry black and gold roster. As the third brand of the company, there was always an underground element and a palpable air of sticking it to the man. The London crowd in December 2015 embraced NXT and
Oscar's another one that actually blew up NXT. Well, NXT was popping for Oscar, to be honest. Finn was probably the one that made NXT. Finn and Joe, the two that made NXT even more popular than it was, to be honest. That eventually comes with it, like Butch and Gunther. Number 7, the formation and crowding of the Undisputed Era. Yes! Yes, dude. The Undisputed Era, whenever they started touring, it was 2017, I believe. That was my favorite faction since The Shield. Like, since The Shield ever happened, that was the one faction that was like, oh yeah, I'm interested in this group.
Roman broke records for the World World title, Adam Cole became the longest reigning NXT champion. Before the Usos stood alongside their leader with tag belts, the Undisputed Era was draped in gold. When Cole, O'Reilly and Fish debuted, they could have gone the same way as most groups in the company, being used to put over already established stars. The Era's black and gold colour scheme bore a striking resemblance to the Nexus, and their face is infamous. So it's with praise to both the NXT
I wouldn't compare Undisputed Era to the Nexus, to be honest.
managed to do by capturing all of the prizes in the company.
The Undisputed Era got way more of a push than Nexus ever really did, to be honest.
Their cocky frat boy behaviour, which often crossed the line into outright idiocy, see Roderick Strong's therapy session skits, didn't detract from their ability to get things done in the ring. Capturing all the gold in NXT, as well as plenty end-of-year awards, made sure they defined the brand. The closest WWE had to the UE at this time, in terms of quality stables, was the now-defunct Shield. And despite their own brilliance, these are things the House of Justice simply cannot say. The Undisputed Era punched up to the heights of DX and NWO when it came to having total control over the territory they marked as their own. Number 6, War Games in NXT has never been
That's true. Every Warriors match in NXT was pure, absolutely. I can't name you one War Games match in NXT that I've really been bored on. There's always cool spots on it, etc., etc.
defined edges. Some of this was the usage of the copyrights the company had acquired in 2001 from WCW and left dormant. The most pivotal of these, of course, was the return of our best legal impression at Ready War. NXT provided the two-ring cage structure was refreshed 17 years away, and also against the back of the tired formula of carrying a sound. WWE adopting the gimmick for Survivor Series 2023 created some fantastic storytelling moments for the Bloodline. AEW's own Blood and Guts bout have been entertaining in their own right, but production issues have stopped them from achieving their potential. But NXT knocked it out every single time.
The Ricochet spot where he died off top of the cage was one of the most memorable this right here is one of those memorable moments that I can remember watching to this day, and it's one of those mind-blowing things. I can remember watching a lot of NXT. It's very rare that I can actually remember watching a paper like to the time, if you know what I mean.
Shirai diving off the ropes with a trash can on her head. Anyone? Number 5, NXT TakeOver Chicago. When it comes to takeovers that show roster depth, few do it better than 2017's Chicago show. The women's title was defended in a triple threat match between Asuka, Nikki Cross, and Ruby Riott, which seems totally star-studded in retrospect. The men's championship, meanwhile, was contested in a particularly interesting pairing of Bobby Roode and Hideo Itami. Perhaps the gem of the entire show was the masterpiece put on display by Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates, arguably writing the booking mistake of the UK Championship tournament by having the Cruiserweight take a title that was rightfully.
That's another. This match right here, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bates, another absolutely insane match. NXT UK, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch a lot of it. I watched the UK title. It's really like all I watched the UK, to be honest. That moment, dude, Ciampa turning on Gargano. I'm gonna pause this video, I know. Ciampa versus Gargano was one of those moments where I screamed until I had no voice, because that tag team there was one of those tag teams that I was absolutely obsessed with at that moment in time. I was like, I would say 14, if I had to guess, potentially 15. I can't remember what year that was. It was 2018 or 17, I can't remember, to be honest with you. But that was one of those teams that I was like legit obsessed with. And it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, I hate Ciampa. Like, Ciampa was such a fighter, he'll just like, oh, yes. Ciampa and Gargano have absolutely been, yes. Jinder Mahal's tailoring sucked. No. Yes. Yes, I just said this, yes. 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 Champion Gargano have top 5 matches of all time. I do not care what anyone says. Gargano and Ciampa take over have some of the most 5 matches. I wish NXT was still this good to this day.
And evolving is often remarkable. If done right, it can make for the most effective and memorable stories in the sport. Gargano vs. Ciampa has appeared to be one of the best rivalries in WWE history. Not only did it deliver all of the above, even surviving and reigniting through several unfortunately timed injuries, but it also delivered in ring, with every encounter outdoing the previous, perhaps with the exception of the end. This feud began in a strange era for WWE's main roster. As previously mentioned, Mahal was WWE champion and Lesnar was embarked.
Jinder was on Reigns, Brock was on Reigns. Yeah, two-star World Champions, I understand.
The company struggled with putting over any major baby faces, let alone creating new ones. Gargano and Ciampa's story through its runtime proved that they could both work different ends of the spectrum. Ciampa was a versatile bad.
It's like such a... This feud right here, I was like absolutely so invested in, to be honest with you. Like, this feud was like the modern day Shawn Michaels Triple H feud from the 2000s. That's what it reminded me of a lot. Just because Ciampa Gargano had the vibe go to ball on, if you know what I mean.
When he was part of NXT as a face. The storyline weaved in ways that allowed them both to shine their brightest over the 3 years, constantly subverting expectations and making sure that, regardless of whatever else was happening, NXT was still worth watching. Number 3, NXT TakeOver R Evolution. Despite being a contender for one of the worst pay-per-view names WWE have ever used, TakeOver R Evolution is perhaps no better example of NXT as a statement. The first 2 events were decent fun, but 2014's was where NXT stood up, looked at Raw and SmackDown and said, we are not the same. At first glance, the card seems quite quaint, and there are over 45 minutes of action in 2 hours. Corbin smashes through Dylan in less than a minute. Charlotte defends the title against Sasha Banks for the first time in a swift 12 minutes, but she does so kicking off a 5+ year rivalry. Exciting New Japan signings, Finn Balor and Hideo Itami team together against developmental stalwarts.
The Demon.
Also of note, Corey Graves starts his commentary career this night, but the turning point that takes place at our Revolution is for baby.
Bro, Corey Graves should return. Like, in the room, well, he should have returned in the Rumble, but didn't. Instead of Pat, they should have tried Corey Graves. He's medically cleared if he is, no. He wrestled in NXT with Neville. He's a former NXT Tag Team Champion. Absolutely. I enjoyed the character, to be honest.
Reaching the peak of the mountain, gaining the NXT Championship and embracing his longtime companion and new signee, Kevin Owens. And in the last 2 minutes of the show, the inevitable happens with Owens wiping Zayn out with a powerbomb on the apron. Conversely, WWE had run TLC with a stairs match between the Big Show and Eric Rowan. Woohoo! Number 2, NXT wins Survivor Series 2019. This one is more kayfabe than the rest, but it would have been silly to disregard the night that WWE put over NXT in the biggest possible way. Survivor Series.
She deserves to win this champion, no be honest. She can wrestle this down trade well.
Or vice versa. Adding NXT into the mix in 2019 changed that attitude completely. Simply put, NXT fans really cared about their show as the little underground runs of WWE's brands, and it was suddenly trading blows with the established TV shows. It was one of the rare years that Survivor Series kept proper score across the board, with the show going off the air alongside a startling image of a victorious Shayna Baszler and the final standings of 4-2-1 to the black and gold. The night got off to a hot, intriguing start when Lio Rush overcame cruiserweights on the other 2 brands. The NXT ladies won the 5-on-5-on-5 tag match, and Strong beat Nakamura and Styles to give NXT a heavy lead. At this point, SmackDown could only hope to tie, and shockingly, that wasn't the case. Tribalism in wrestling may be stupid, and it was all booked this way to improve NXT's profile for better
NXT showing up in the main roster was such a dope moment. Especially like in the DX formation.
on their feet. At number 1, NXT TakeOver Dallas. When it comes to the best singles wrestling match of 2016,
This brings back so many memories to my childhood, to be honest. Now that I'm like an adult, I'm 19 now, I was probably like 13 or 13 when this happened. Like, dude, this brings back so many memories, and that just proves how quality NXT was at the time.
NXT was a
He's like my martial arts product.
On style with an unforgettable bout against Sami Zayn. But whilst this was the show stealer of the entire year, never mind that evening, NXT TakeOver Dallas was a card that showcased everything fresh and exciting about WWE's developmental brand. The emotions of Nakamura's arrival and Zayn's fitting departure landed in the middle of a card that kept the crowd on their feet all evening. The show opened with super over American Alpha securing the NXT Tag Team Championship with huge elation. Elsewhere, Asuka submitted Bayley to be crowned NXT Women's Champion. Time changed, but the future was no less thrilling. NXT felt like essential viewing in a vacuum that night, but this was only elevated by what was to come that weekend. WrestleMania 32 is commonly believed to be one of the worst in the history of the show of shows.
WrestleMania 32 was decent. I wouldn't say it's 10 out of 10. It's decent.
While NXT had put on a match with Zayn and Nakamura that people still talk about with reverence 8 years later. And that's the list.
If you guys haven't yet, please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.